Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana. You found us on whatever podcast app you use. And of course, Davie, we are live.
At Twitch. Sorry, no. Oh, wow. I went back to 2022 there. We are live on youtube.com/Poisonrana pod. How we doing? YouTube room.
Yes. Hello, YouTube. Go follow, hit that subscribe. I know they started adding ats in the YouTube channels for us pores. So you'll find us somehow, some way with an at. But welcome, everybody. We're going to talk a lot about some wrestling and all that stuff. So poisonrana.ca for all the updates on all the shows and socials and everything that you should follow to keep updated with this show. And today is a big show. We got a lot of news going on with... I'm so sick and tired of talking about Vince McMahon, so we can't do it alone today. But this week was Wrestle Kingdom, and we were crazy enough to stay up this week to watch it. And I thought it would be a great time to bring on a friend of the show, who I would say is an expert when it comes to the wrestling over there in Japan. I would definitely say that. So today we are not alone, and we are joined by Karen Peterson. Hello, Karen.
Hello, gentlemen. Happy New Year. Great to be on the show.
Happy New Year. Yeah, I spent it a few days after staying up late on Eastern time zone to watch wrestling. That's been my week. My schedule's still not fully normal because of it.
I felt horrendous all week. Yeah, I was doing night shifts at the bar both yesterday and the day before. I'm also trying the whole, it's January. I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to drink less. And I'm trying to exercise, and it sucks. Like, I went for a run yesterday, I've been eating vegetarian, I haven't drank any alcohol, and I felt like absolute shit at work yesterday, so I'm blaming Wrestle Kingdom.
It's kind of like having that WrestleMania week hangover, but, like, it's new year, new me, new wrestling hangover the first week out the gate. It's really a rough start.
Yeah. You're in Florida, right? So your time zone is the same as us.
Same time zone, so I was up at 1:30 in the morning to watch the overly long pre-show of Wrestle Kingdom, and then suffered till about the end of Omega Ospreay, and then fell asleep right before the event. You
were tapped out. We were pretty tapped out.
I fell asleep during. I had to rewatch Jay White Okada yesterday because I wish I didn't, but it was. I was starting to fall asleep again yesterday, but yeah, it's a slog for sure.
You put it on double speed once it's on the archive on NewJapanWorld.com, and you just breeze right through it. A 35-minute match is 15 minutes, and you're done.
That's true.
Okada match, Jay White match, that means it's like an hour 35. So 35 would be the double speed for a Jay White match.
I used to write reports, and sometimes I'd do it on the 1.5 speed or whatever, and then I'd realize my notes would be like, wow, super quick start to this match. They were going at, and I'm like, oh no, I'm watching it on double speed. That's why.
Yeah, you were watching Omos, who was definitely not, or Bully Ray on Impact, who was definitely not in that fast. It's interesting. You know what? I want to shout out anyone who's not in our time zone who may listen to us and check out wrestling from time to time, because I know the struggle. I know the struggle now. You Brits and you other people all across the world who either stay up, or maybe you don't stay up because work and life and stuff gets in the way of your wrestling watching. But then you're trying to avoid spoilers and stuff. So for anyone out there who had a tough time staying up or avoiding spoilers or anything like that, all the power to you, because I felt the way it feels to watch wrestling at different times of the morning, and it's tough. But to be a fan, you gotta put in the work, I guess. I don't know. Bet on yourself.
It's more if you want to avoid it being spoiled, you either have to throw your phone into the ocean for a few hours, or just suck it up and tune in.
I mean, that's the thing. It's it should be so easy to just stay off your phone until you've watched it, but it's so habitual that kind of just opening your phone and you're like, no, put it away. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Okay, remember when Omega and Okada fought at the Dominion one? It was the last time they fought. I remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna stay awake, and I was just so beat up that I was like, okay, I'm gonna put an alarm, and then I'm gonna wake up and not go on my phone and do it. So I did that, and I slept, and then as soon as my alarm woke up, I went to grab my phone to turn off the alarm, and I got a notification from Post Wrestling, and it was John Pollock saying, Omega beats Okada in whatever minutes. And I was just like, fuck this, and just went back to sleep. And eventually watched the match, which, you know, is, people say is like one of the best matches ever. But I was just like to me, spoilers do matter to me. Like wrestling, it's part of it, right? You don't, some people do this, but do you read a whole synopsis of a movie before you go see it? No, it's going to give everything away. So I'm kind of in that boat. So this year, for this WrestleMania, for this Wrestle Kingdom, specifically Omega and Ospreay, I did not want to risk anything, so I stayed up.
I think the worst things to be spoiled on as well, and I get this sometimes when we're putting together our best match ever show, when I'm looking at some of the best matches of a wrestler or whatever. The worst thing is if I accidentally read the result is a 1 hour draw, because I'm just like, well, fuck. Like, I can't get into it. That I know it's going an hour. I know it's going to be a long match. Could be a fantastic match. But if I know I'm not even going to have the drama of, like, maybe there being that buzzer beater or anything, and it's just, at the end of an hour, it's going to be a draw, it's the worst thing to be spoiled about.
I agree. Like, think of that latest, just near the end of the year there, Impact put on Josh Alexander and Mike Bailey, and you and Cena, everyone was saying, "Oh my God, you got to check this match out." And then, as soon as I go to click it, it's like, "Oh, it ended in an hour-long draw." I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go outside then." Like I know how it ends.
Josh won that one. He won that one. It just it was an hour match. Yeah, it almost went the hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I just spoiled it for you, so.
Yeah. Now I'm not gonna watch it. Great. You could have said that wasn't the outcome, but.
True.
I know
My bad.
I know the struggle. I am that way though. Like with wrestling, it matters, especially in big storylines of, you know, who's gonna win and go over and stuff like that. It definitely adds to the allure to it, and that's why I decided to stay up this week. But I mean, we were going to jump into some Wrestle Kingdom. We have some topics to definitely jump into, Karen, and I'm happy that you're here to join us specifically about Wrestle Kingdom. But there was a bigger story that the story just every day keeps popping up in different feeds. So I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I want to start off with a bit of a metaphor here. So Braden and I, we're not in the same room today, but we live together. And right when we moved in, there's been issues with the washroom. It leaked. It leaked quite a lot, and we needed it fixed. So eventually it was this whole ordeal. We had to move out. We had to get it fixed up. Out with the old, in with the new. We come back, it's got literally a fresh coat of paint. It's all sparkly. It looks really nice. Things are positive. We think things are going to change for the better. And then, you know, as some time goes on, there's some teething problems. The shower water pressure isn't quite what it used to be. But still, like, it's an improvement on the previous regime. Excuse me, previous washroom. And then one morning, you wake up, you go to the washroom to do your business, and you see the toilet is completely filled with shit and piss. So yes, what? Braden, firstly, our washroom's fucked again. Secondly, Vince McMahon is back.
What the? I'm learning about some things right now. Wait, what?
That's going to be my job today.
Sorry, our washroom is now again out of order?
Yeah, the toilet's completely backed up. So, stole a plunger from work this morning, and I'm going to be having a go on that later. But, yeah, the shit is back in the office. Vince McMahon is back in power. Where do we start with this one?
My heart bleeds for y'all right now.
Oh, yeah, it sucks. What I thought was going to be a nice day of talking wrestling with some friends and then chilling out. No, I'm going to be knee-deep in shit.
Oh, my
literally.
Goodness, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we can't catch a break with that washroom. Like, for anyone who's listened to some of our Patreon shows, we've gone off about the horror stories about this damn washroom. So, wow, okay, great. It's not even nowhere near finished.
No.
Great. Good to know now. Just like Vince McMahon coming back to WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who wants to help Davie buy a plunger today, patreon.com/Poisonrana for $5 to join to be a friend, and you get access to almost 500 podcasts. Go check them out. We just recorded Best Match Ever Part 1 and Part 2 of 2022, which we talk all about the greatest matches of the past year. Which, quick before we jump into more shitty Vince news, Karen, give me some ballpark numbers of some of the favorite matches you watched in 2022, just off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head?
That you really liked last year.
I mean, Julia and Shuri at Dream Queendom skated in with 72 hours to go at the end of the year. Oh God, you should have told me this earlier. I would have given.
No, that was a good pick though. That match is awesome.
Oh yeah, no. Honestly, Shuri's entire run with the red belt was one of my favorites of this year. Anything that had FTR in it, because I love tag team wrestling. I loved them when they were in NXT as the Revival. I've loved seeing them in AEW. I was gonna say there's a match on Wrestle Kingdom, but we're not on Wrestle Kingdom just yet. Super Juniors, anything with Desperado and Hiromu involved in the last year has been great. I just
June.
A lot of my wrestling for the most part has been over on the Japan side, but off the top of my head, I'm always completely blank when people ask me to just name stuff that I remember watching. So I'm like, wait, was that this year, last year?
Yeah, it blends together. Bleeds together for us quite a lot. That's why we write we do these matches where we write down things. The best match ever, part 1 and 2, guys, you got to check out, because we have so much fun just watching great wrestling. It's fun to crap on bad wrestling, but man, I really love watching good stuff. Being a fan is fun. But yeah, everyone go check that show out, and it'll help Davie possibly. I don't know what the hell's going on, but
I feel like we're going to need a plumber, and I feel like that plumber will come in about 3 months probably. So yeah. At least we got the gym on the 4th floor, right?
Oh no. I was going to say, best match ever. I enjoyed my visit to best match ever earlier in 2022.
This is true. Karen, we had a great show with you chatting all about Io Shirai from all before WWE. So that was that was probably one of my favorite shows we did this year, Karen. That was great.
And we're actually going to be releasing that one for free for this month as we're celebrating Japanuary here at Poisonrana.
That's right.
I do love a good pun, you guys. Well done,
you. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to release that one for free. So that one came out a few months ago on our Patreon. So look on this feed for that show coming out on this feed. Also check out Detox with myself and Jordan coming out later for free on this feed. All right, now we can dive into the backed up toilet that is
Vinnie
Vince
Mac.
McMahon. Vinnie Mac
is back.
Returning. Vinnie Mac returning to WWE. Oh my goodness. What the hell's going on here? So every day, it seems the Wall Street Journal keeps posting these stories. Not every day, but it seems that way.
Feels like it.
And it just keeps adding on. Then there's the Vice documentary that we gathered most of that information ourselves as fans already. But Vince McMahon kind of being gone. The retirement tweet, the then now together forever thing. It seemed like we were gone. As wrestling fans, I know myself, I joke that there's no way he wasn't still running things. He was texting Triple H different ideas for Raw that night, and Triple H just puts it on Do Not Disturb. But it seems that this guy still wants his way back into WWE, and it seems having him be back on the board of directors, as per Wall Street Journal, that somehow he's still going to be within WWE, and now the consensus is because they want to sell, and that he wants to sell, and all the potential different buyers in this list have come up and everything. So it's as a wrestling fan, it's we just got rid of him, and now he's saying he
essentially said it's you either let me come back, or I won't approve as majority shareholder. I won't approve anything. Any TV deal, any sale, anything, I won't approve it. So you're going to have me back. And there was a whole kind of document signed by the board, which would include, Nick Khan, Stephanie, Triple H, saying, nah, it's not best for business. You should stay away. There's other shit that could come out about you as well. We're kind of doing all right without you here. And he was like, well, no, sorry. It's my way or the highway, and I'm coming back. And then Stephanie having to put out a thing afterwards being like, oh, we're so excited, it's great for business, all this. There's now talks of what they shareholders want kind of money back from the money spent for the investigation and threatening to sue. You've got George Barrios and Michelle Wilson coming back into the fold with Vince McMahon. Other board members have resigned. It's a mess. And at this point is the only thing that's going to keep Vince away, like death or jail. It feels like. Karen, what have you? I mean, we're sick to death talking about Vince at this point, but what are some of your thoughts about all of this?
I mean, before we went on air, you knew I did drop the very rare F-bomb about my feelings on this entire man.
It's the first time I ever heard you swear, Karen.
It does not happen very often. I mean, it takes a lot to really push my buttons, and you know, if we want to keep it the bathroom metaphor, as a girl that has long hair, snaking the drain is one of the most satisfying things I like to do when I'm cleaning my house. And when he left, it was like they pulled the giant, most nastiest hairball out, and everything was just flowing great, feeling great. I actually started watching WWE on the occasion after you know, well, it took, you know, Damage Control rolling up for me to stop what I was doing and start watching again. But I was just like, everything started to feel good. And maybe for me, it's being, you know, NXT was where I got my renaissance in coming back into wrestling after a very long time away from it. So Triple H, you know, Uncle Paul has a very special place in my heart. And the way he was running WWE, it made me feel like things were changing. But it was one of those things where when Vince retired, it felt like it was too good to be true. And it was too seamless. You know what I'm saying? Mm. It was very much I always make the joke that, you know, the devil works hard, but, you know, Rossi Ogawa works harder. In this sense, I feel like that then, now, together forever, no sooner was he writing that tweet out, there was already machinations in the background to figure out how he could get back in. And it's disgusting. As a female fan of the WWE, actually starting back in the late 90s in WWF, and seeing everything that's transpired over the last 20 plus years, it is so hard to stomach the possibility of him coming back. It's like there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, punishment for rich white men? Because that's exactly what it is. He's getting away with it, and it's disgusting.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Especially this week, I got to shout out John Pollock, Post Wrestling, that article he wrote, Vince McMahon, Dana White. Go to postwrestling.com. It was so well done. But yeah, in a week where you're looking like, wait, shouldn't they be done? Shouldn't that be over with? No.
Shouldn't he be in jail?
Shouldn't they be in jail?
Maybe.
No. He's still going to tanning beds.
Remember when he suspended Titus O'Neil for just grabbing his arm on TV, for touching him? And this is a man with multiple, like, sexual assault allegations, rape accusations, who hasn't denied a fucking thing, who's just waltzing back into the business. It's disgusting. And I hope there's pushback from, you know, sponsors, TV deals, things like that. Unfortunately, I don't see that being the case, because the product is still worth so much money, and with or without Vince, it's gonna continue. It really, like, sickens me. And yeah, like, as I said, unless some kind of actual proper legal ramifications come out of this, and like he actually legally gets punished, unfortunately, I don't really see much changing. Unless, what, do we get a coup in WWE with the board? Like, I don't know what needs to happen, but it's awful.
And the other layer for it is that, of course, he comes back on the anniversary of the insurrection here in the United States,
which best was buddy Trump.
It was the way it was done. I'm just like, this is, I just can't. Like, at what point it's the, where do I check my moral compass out? Because it's the, are we gonna have to go through more quote-unquote budget cuts and relive the last 2.5 years where we watch people just lose their jobs in droves just to get hired back, just to get released aka fired, all over again.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand how they can start singing a different tune, saying, "Oh no, this is good. This is a good thing. This is good for business." No, it's not. It's a toxic work environment, and it's not safe.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, we've been watching this stuff for a long time. You hear the stories, you read all these things, and this finally felt like the last few months finally felt like, okay, we're completely going on into a completely different direction, and it still shows up. It's this cockroach that keeps coming back, and it's the biggest one. It's Vince McMahon. This is his baby. You can almost see like, well, it's his whole world. He created all this. Of course, he probably brings that up to anyone. Well, I created Hulkamania. I created Austin. I did all this stuff. It's mine. I'm still in control. I'm going to do whatever I want. And now it's kind of coming back in. It's like Norman Osborn in the Spider-Man movie. It's like, out, am I? Well, I'm not. And it's like, are they going to sell to these different companies? Because there's a list of potential buyers that's floating around. Shout out MJF, who says yesterday, I feel like I don't talk enough about how much I love these companies. And then he lists Comcast, Fox, Disney, Warner Bros., Netflix, Amazon, Endeavor, and Liberty Media. MJF still playing into the bidding war of 2024. But could you imagine Io Shirai as a Disney princess? That's not that bad, right?
I mean, she is.
She already is. Or a villain, possibly.
No, you have your anti-heroine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Make it a little interesting. But that's the thing, is that would Disney be willing to align themselves with a company that has somebody on the board that has this much baggage, public dirty laundry?
I don't think so.
I mean, we've seen Disney have taken a stand against, like, you know, the whole Gina Carano thing in Mandalorian when I can't see Disney coming. I wonder how much of this is bullshit anyway, and it's just a power move where, like, he's talking about sales. Maybe he has no intention to sell, but it's a way to get back in. But it feels like this, like he's going kind of scorched earth in a way. Like, if I can't have it, no one can. I've seen all the memes of when he, you know, injected poison into the WWE with bringing in the NWO, but this is what it kind of feels like. He's been, like, ousted, and he doesn't like it. He's bored. He doesn't have any hobbies. He's coming back, and it's like, well, it's either going to be my way or no one's having this.
Yeah, it seems very selfish of him. Again, we know the kind of person this guy is without ever, you know, meeting this person. He's someone who's been in our homes via, you know, our entertainment for years, and we've seen the way, you know, on and off screen, this guy has definitely presented himself. And I do think in a sort of way, it's him playing chicken of, you know, I'll say that I'm here to do all these things, but it's the only way to keep me kind of relevant in this thing. Like, I don't think anyone ever thought this guy would just disappear on an island, because it's Vince McMahon, right? Like, you know, tail between his legs and just go buy an island, really, like, with all the old money he's got. But, like, instead, he still keeps coming back with this. And as a fan, it's very weird, because, like you, Karen, this year I was like, okay, like, WWE, you're gonna get my interest, my money, essentially. You know, I'm gonna start watching again. And now this kind of puts this, like, you tricked me. Like, well, now I don't want to get back in, but I've now already stepped a few toes in the water, and I'm like, oh, I love WWE, but I don't want to support, like, this foul man, you know. So it is interesting. Something that interests me, though, is the, like, sale thing that's been wrestling talk for the past little while. Like, even looking at the whole WWE network on the Peacock thing, and I would say NBC is probably the one place that you would eventually see them maybe possibly owning. Like, I absolutely do not see Disney and WWE partnering whatsoever. I don't think we all had Mickey Mouse dethroning Roman Reigns at WrestleMania as our pick, but, like, I would
go to Mania for that, let's be honest.
Yeah, me too. Mania in Orlando. That would be good.
But there's talks of the Saudis buying as well, the company that, you know, with Live Golf and all that, right, which we already know they're in bed with them, so
yeah.
But what happens
which
to
makes
the
it so
women's
much better.
division or your LGBTQIA plus community
absolutely.
roster members? Are they all going to lose their jobs? Like how does that like? It makes me. It just
crazy.
burns my biscuits, guys. I'm just
It's interesting. Like in today's age, everything is streaming and cable and channels are disappearing and more online based things. Like obviously Monday Night Raw and WWE SmackDown are huge assets to the channels they're on and to WWE themselves. It's how they're making like the most money. And I mean, Fox is someone who imagine they just went, yeah, we'll buy you. I don't see it that going that way. And this still just all leads me to believe this is just still Vince McMahon Manning his way to still be talked about, to still be relevant, to still try to gain and keep the power that he once had. And I don't know. I don't see WWE going basically anywhere. And I would not want to see it with Disney. And I would not want to see it with the same like Live Golf and all that stuff. I personally don't see it going that way. But I mean, who knows? In a year from now, WWE could be on completely different channels or something. The way things are going,
you got to think talent are nervous as well. The likes of a Bray Wyatt, who during this time got his job back, still hasn't wrestled a match yet. You got to think. I mean, a big issue was with him and Vince, right? Was why he went in the first place. William Regal, who's just come back to the office, he's got to be nervous. Like so many of these talents who have been brought back or are undersized or whatever must be feeling pretty nervous. These people who are maybe like an FTR, who we know their contract's coming to an end. We've seen them start to drop the titles. Would that give them hesitation to go to WWE again? If that was maybe their thought, like going to a Triple H, we know how they got along with Hunter and the whole revival thing in NXT, which was great. Like, it must give them hesitation and other talents hesitation to go there now.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very strange that this is still happening. You would just, I don't know. I feel like I'm not alone as a fan of. We thought we were going into a whole new thing. No Vince McMahon. Let's see where it goes. Like, look at Saturday Night Live, right? Like Lorne Michaels. I'm not comparing Vince McMahon to Lorne Michaels. As we're recording this, Lorne Michaels doesn't have any allegations close to Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? But like, there's so much talk of what happens when he decides he doesn't want to run SNL anymore. And it's kind of the same thing because, he's been doing this show for a very long time where now he's at a certain age. Some people would say he's out of touch. And the debate now going is, well, as if he's done, then the show will end. And a lot of people are like, no, it's a staple of entertainment. It's worldwide. Everybody knows SNL. You can say the same thing with WWE. It's like, well, just because he's gone doesn't mean, I don't know if the guy who created basketball is basically, still running the NBA kind of thing.
Going back to Disney, I'm pretty sure Disney have done okay without Walt in charge,
Exactly.
They've been doing all right the last 50 to 100 years or whatever.
He's frozen. He'll come back and he'll be like, what the fuck's going on here?
He's actually an animatronic in the Hall of Presidents, let's be honest.
yeah, sure. Just maybe Vince McMahon should just freeze himself and come back.
No.
In 50 years.
No.
You take that out of the universe now, sir.
Don't give him any ideas.
I think he's watching Raw and SmackDown every week and like seeing all these, like he's like, God damn it, who's Bronson Reed? I thought I fired this guy. Why isn't Karrion Kross wearing his helmet? What? Who's Johnny Gargano? What's going on here? I feel like he watches it and gets furious, and that's why he's coming back. I'm so over this. I just want it to be like done and go into like the next chapter.
Well, shall we move on to some nice things? Let's have a combined fuck you, Vince, and like move on to some nicer things. So fuck you, Vince.
Fuck you,
and
Vince.
your big Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah. Well,
I bet it's not even real.
We thought we were going to lead with this next segment this week, and until the shit hit the fan. But this was a fantastic week for wrestling. We had the return of like a fuller crowd with no more clap crowd. We could make noise kind of in the Tokyo Dome. This felt like Wrestle Kingdom proper again, and really, it wasn't the main event, but I think in our hearts it was the main event. We had a bit of a dream match with Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega in what a match that's certainly going to be talked about at the end of the year as one of the best matches of the year for sure.
Absolutely. I don't want to sound like the biggest Kenny Omega mark, even though I am, but this match somehow over-delivered, yet at the same time, I feel like they still probably have 3 other matches in there that would probably put this one to shame, really. But this was the finale of wrestling. I'm done. I don't need to watch anything for the rest of the year because I don't think there will be anything that tops this match. Again, like, you know, Ospreay's kind of been the most talked about wrestler in the past while, and he's been very vocal about this no noise crowd, and you know, the pandemic must have really sucked for people in this industry trying to make a living and trying to just hear response from the crowd. So to finally have that, and then to finally have the one-on-one with Kenny that has been teased for so long since going back to their first encounter in like PWG, where they've had a way crazier career, you know, since then, both of them. So to finally see it like come together in this dream match, it felt like New Japan is back to me. It felt like a great jumping back on platform to get into. But I as soon as this match was announced, I was like, Davie, you know, how much do we have in the Patreon bank? How much are flights to Japan? I would do anything to go watch this match live. And watching it, like we said earlier, we stayed up late, and these two like delivered. I've watched this match twice already. Like the next day, I was like, Davie, sorry, I know we're roommates. I'm like, I gotta watch this again. It's in my brain that I loved it so much that, you know, like I feel like a kid who watches, I don't know, like Coco or Encanto, and then I want to watch it again. It's like, okay, just put it on again. And that's how I felt about this match. So all the stars to these guys. Again, call me the biggest mark in the world, but I really love this match, and I cannot wait till we see them run it back.
What I've loved seeing, I mean, I've been watching Ospreay for years in kind of, you know, tiny gyms and nightclubs in the UK, and what I've loved is how year upon year he's leveled up. Obviously in size when he moved to the heavyweight division, but I think this heel character has allowed his ring style to evolve, where he isn't just the guy who does spectacular flips. He's violent, like those, and in this match you saw that the hidden blade he does right to the face of Omega, and I mean, I know he clocked him with some of those cheeky Nandos, but he's got such more of a vicious, violent style. His promo going into it, which was the promo of his life, like you really feel like, I mean, we talked about him as Wrestler of the Year 2-3 years ago, and I think he keeps stepping up. But having him lose this as well against Omega, you know there's like one final step for him to go. Like he's still got to, you know, beat Okada clean, and he's got to get that win on Omega. So there's still story for him moving forward. I do think it's the time, like he played babyface in this match. I know New Year's Dash he was kind of playing heel again. I think it's time to have Ospreay be kind of full babyface moving forward, but keeping all these wrinkles he's added to his game. But the match is just stunning. It was 35 minutes, absolutely breezed by. They left, as you said, they've left stuff in the chamber for rematches down the line, whether it's a Forbidden Door 2 or a Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom next year or whatever. We know we're going to get more Kenny in New Japan because he's holding the US title. But even like the entrances here with the Final Fantasy entrance for Kenny, but I love like
Elevated.
Yeah, Elevated, but with the piano to kick it off. Like I thought that was stunning. It gave it this main event feel. That song worked way better for Ospreay. It kind of really gets you pumped. But yeah, like I'm a bit of a mark for, you know, live music. So having that piano opening was like pretty fucking cool. But everything, the whole presentation of it, the crowd were at their peak for this match. Yeah, we may have lost Karen. Braden, are you there?
Is it me that's breaking
Oh,
up?
yes, Karen, you're back. Hello.
I'm still here.
I was like, you were slowing down for me. I was like, is that me?
Oh,
Or is
okay.
it-
Karen, we're clearly huge. We were really into watching Wrestle Kingdom in the middle of the night from the Tokyo Dome, live on our couch in Toronto, because we had to watch a Japanese wrestling show featuring a Brit and a Canadian, which totally delivered. Karen, what did you think of this match?
Well, it was a Brit and a Canadian fighting over control of the United
The
States.
United States.
So what so I guess Kenny Omega is our other president at the moment.
Yeah.
But I might have sound like a broken record because I've been on multiple podcasts this week. But for me, full disclosure, I've always struggled with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay as a portraiture of a foreign person living in Japan as someone who's also lived in Japan. So that being said, I've always had difficulty wrapping my head around their wrestling. I know they're fantastic wrestlers. I've seen them wrestle live. I've seen them wrestle live from the front row of shows all over the country. But it's always been in the back of my head, something never clicked for me. And I didn't know what it was. And I think it was one, Kenny Omega leaving and being away from New Japan for so long and finally getting the rest and recuperation that he needed. Two, the development of Ospreay in the last year, him turning on Okada, establishing the United Empire, and then the chase of him basically chasing Kenny's ghost in Kenny's absence after leaving. But the other layer that really stood out to me is that a large part of this involves a person that wasn't physically in the match, and that was Ospreay's rivalry with Ibushi. And it was you did all of this to him, I'm taking it back for both of us. And it was one of those things where I've watched plenty of their matches. And for me, I'm not saying it was a begrudging 5 stars, but I was worried about the 60-minute time limit. I was like, please don't let it go for an hour. I can't do an hour right now on a 7-hour show.
That reserved for Jay White over an hour matches.
Yeah. But I was riveted for most of the match. I don't do well with blood. So the moment Ospreay started pulling a John Moxley and bleeding all over the damn place, I was like, oh God, not in my coffee, not in my morning coffee, not right now. But my only problem is knowing that they went this far, this fast, in 35 minutes in the first meeting. As a fan who gets squeamish about high spots, and we'll go back, like if I'm going to throw one out, Tanahashi versus Kenta for the US Championship last year, I get scared of what they have left to prove, or they feel they need to prove, or what they feel they need to do to make Omega, Ospreay 2, 3, 4, whatever, even better. Because that's when it gets dangerous. And, both of them are finally seemingly in healthy, happy places. I just want them to stay in their healthy, happy places.
So you don't want them to wrestle again this year. You want it to separate.
I mean, breathe. At least let it breathe until at least Dominion, which is like June or after the G1. It was also in June. It was also in June.
Summertime, yeah.
So it's like it was like the week or two after Dominion. So it's like I need a crowbar or like Jaws of Life and a massive like space between this. Like it's just like Okada Omega. I need space between. I can't have it like 2 months later, 3 months later. I know that's what people want. People want the payoff. But I'm the long-term booking girl. I like a slow burn. And this
Absolutely.
The build-up for this, I was at Historic Crossover when that VTR played of Kenny. And I was in awe, and I'm just like, this is actually happening. This is actually happening. And, even in Osaka, like or not Osaka, Ariake, there wasn't supposed to be a lot of cheering, but there was audible, oh my gosh, this is happening. It's finally happening. So I'm glad it's finally come to that point, but at the same time, make it last. Don't do the WWE like rematch. Make me wait for it. Make my appetite wet for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Something about New Japan. Like, look, I completely agree. I think the match delivered, and I think you don't need to do this match for a whole other like year, really. Of course, selfishly, I'd watch them wrestle a million different times, no problem.
Absolutely.
However, I do think the story, kind of classic Davie, we were comparing it to Kawada, Misawa, where it's like the one guy's always had his number, and then like you do that kind of years down the line and finally have like another rematch and stuff. But New Japan are somewhat worse than WWE when it comes to booking rematches. Because Karen, you can't tell me that you were really into New Japan during the past 3 years of Shingo versus Okada, Okada versus Jay White, Jay White versus Okada, Jay White versus, like, it's the same matches for the past 3 years. So finally getting a dream match out of this felt so like fresh. And I think that made a lot of people jump back on and sign up for New Japan World instantly for this specific match, because I felt like the past while, and you know what, even before the pandemic, New Japan were doing this where they keep booking the same matches. And it's not like the talent in the matches are fantastic. I love Shingo. I love Okada. I even love Jay White sometimes. But you can't just keep booking the same damn match. Like, I can't, like, sorry, no one's going to watch this. And then also you're doing it with no crowd reaction. It's just dead fish, like, floating to the top. It's like, okay, well, what the hell? So now I feel like with this big show, they're going to be feeling real good about this Wrestle Kingdom show with crowds being back into it. You don't need to do this, but Kenny having the title back definitely brings some interest to some other challengers along the way. Right. Mm-hmm. Bear with us, peoples.
I mean, I hear you just fine.
Yeah, I hear you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, when it comes to, like, as you were saying, everything felt repetitive over the last few years, and I think that's largely not entirely New Japan's fault because of, the way that the country had its entry restrictions in place. It really limited who could come over, especially if they had to quarantine for, at the get-go 2 weeks, and then it was down to 10 days, and then it was down to 3 days, and then it was, depending on your vaccination status, you didn't even need to quarantine, you could just come on in. So it's one of those things where I got frustrated because there were plenty of people that could have been the challengers that off the top of my head, Sonata.
Oh yeah.
Where was that Sonata singles run that, like, he had the US championship for like a month and then got his eye socket shattered, but then he never saw the championship ever again. And
I'm okay with that, Karen. I'm not a Sonata fan. I wanted to. He's so handsome. He has everything.
Is he too handsome that he
wrestler.
Can't be a champion because that means he literally has it all? Is that where we're going with this?
He's really handsome, but he's so boring. He has no character. What's his character?
He provides the handsome battles.
You already didn't answer that question. You proved my point that I think you're right though. Like, how many times do they go back to the same matches when look at the people you do have? I'm not saying Tai Chi needs to be IWGP World Champion, but
it's coming.
He had a pretty good run during the pandemic,
coming.
especially in the past little while. Someone for me, you could do a whole storyline, build up a whole pay-per-view that you would get your New Japan regulars invested and a lot of foreigners who would subscribe for New Japan World if you just did this angle like Suzuki, right? He just disbanded Suzuki-gun. He could be like, my time is up. I've beaten big champions before, but I've never held a belt. Okada, I'm coming for you. And then you build up this thing. Of course, he doesn't win, but like the hope spot of him, possibly doing it. You could do the same story with an Ishii, who he's been the guy who's put on bangers, but he's never really been given that. right? There's a lot of people that I felt like they never used that way, especially during the pandemic, and yet we still get Jay White versus blank. It's
Well,
like
that's because Ghetto can't help himself because
I know.
he went from strapping himself to Okada to strapping himself to Jay. So the way he gets to stay relevant by shilling Jay White's merch in the ring is also by booking Jay White as the champion and then only having him defend the belt twice in 7 months. So we have that. And see, Zelda agrees with me. She's getting all mouthy with it.
She loves Jay White.
No,
I
she doesn't.
think I should be
Davie.
back. Can you hear me again now?
YouTube, can we hear Davie? Yeah.
Awesome.
Something like I think New Japan. This is a good like kind of fresh restart with the whole new year going forward because they have like the people the pogs in place now. I thought it was a really good show, and to when you deliver a really good show, it makes me want to watch your next show. So I feel like that'll maybe hopefully bring in some different people. But I going back to like the draw of that match, the dream match that it was, I was really entertained. I felt like I got more than my money's worth. And again, as someone who lives in Toronto, Eastern time zone, to stay up almost at 5, 6 in the morning just to watch this match, it was completely worth it. Me and Davie stood up. We had a friend over. He put his alarm at like 1 a.m. and then he didn't wake up. And then at like 2:33, he messages us like, "Did I miss it?" And we're like, "No, it's Tom. Tom came over."
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, the match hasn't started yet. You could probably make it." He's like, "I'm getting in an Uber at like 3 in the morning to come watch this." And by the end of it, he's like, "Man, I'm so happy I did because it was so worth it." I keep thinking about this match. It's probably the best match ever. At me.
I'm going to cut you off there because we spent like 50 minutes so far on the first 2 items.
Okay.
So let's move on. Another draw for the show was the debut of Mercedes Mone, the former Sasha Banks, debuting in New Japan, going to be wrestling for there and Stardom. Bit of a kind of negative reaction I've seen to this so far. I think people are like hyped about the idea of her going there, but in execution, maybe not so great. Obviously, there was a bit of a botched move with her new finish, and some people weren't so keen on her promo. But I thought she came out looking like a star. I'm a huge Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone fan. So despite the rocky start, I'm super excited to see what she can do in Japan. Karen, what are some of your thoughts on Mercedes coming to New Japan and Stardom?
I had a lot of mixed feelings about it, largely because they let it slip out that she was going to be at Wrestle Kingdom a month before the match was going to happen, and I know that was probably to garner to get that Sasha Stans on board to sign up for New Japan World, but it totally eclipsed the conversation of the actual match between Tam and Kairi, and total match time for Tam and Kairi was less than 6 minutes. Every match, every dark match, every special event that Stardom did related with New Japan, the tournament for the IWGP Women's Championship, every match was at least 10 minutes or more. And with a 60-minute time limit, this match should not have gone 5 minutes and change. Especially when it's the first defense of the title. They made this whole big deal about it being a showcase of Stardom. You got the best hits, the greatest hits of Tam and Kairi, but you did not get even a taste of what Stardom has to offer in this match. I've seen better dark matches that they've done that have given me far more of a feel for Stardom than this match did.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as both of you there. Like Davie, we're huge Sasha Banks fans, and to see that come in, I think giving like the fact that you give some hype around it, like a lot of people were just like, oh, yeah, we had a lot of Sasha on our set. We like, I think it's like a catch-22. It's like, okay, well, if people know she's coming, then they're going to subscribe. You saw a lot of people online being like, I don't even know what New Japan is, but I subscribed because I want to see her show up, which I'm like, okay, clearly they're going to come out of the woodwork to find and seek this. But when it came to the execution, I agree with both of you. Like to the match itself, like Davie, we love Kairi too. We have a lot of Kairi. We have our Kairi on our set too. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That was it. Nothing really happened in that match. I've seen 100 other Kairi matches that were that great. And then for
she had longer matches on Raw under a Vince McMahon regime, you know, like
yeah.
And this should be it's your one
weird.
women's match on the show. You're trying to push this IWGP Women's Championship, and you know these two could have a fantastic match and actually turn some heads. If they go 12 minutes, I think that's enough to do everything. It's
so to come out then, and then like the reaction was not that loud. Like I don't know if. Like for us watching it just on TV, we were like, "Oh, okay, they don't really care." And then she hits the move. I would say the move looks cool, but I think it was Kairi who dropped down too early before she got spiked with the DDT. Again, also kind of like killing the buzz right away. But I'm still like completely invested to see where we can go with it. But a bit of a rocky start, in my opinion, just because the hype was so like there. I think the visual of her standing in the ring with Kairi was really great. Her music, the crisscross jump remix. I don't know what's the deal with that, but they completely just ripped off crisscross. But okay, I guess Snoop. The Snoop verse that was sent in wasn't up to standard.
I was gonna say, is this the like window for like Snoop Dogg to come to New Japan? Because he's been everywhere else in wrestling. Are we getting Snoop?
Bring it
in the Tokyo Dome next year?
Yeah, it would have been the spot. Tokyo Dome would be the spot. I'm sure maybe Snoop has performed there once or twice, maybe. But like, I feel like that would be pretty cool. And again, bringing a lot more different eyes to the product. But going forward in the next few months, of seeing like they've now announced the actual match in February with Kairi. Like I think that'll gain a lot of things. But after this rocky start, I think people are gonna be like us and have a like, ooh, was this isn't that what I kind of pictured Sasha doing here. So and I mean more to tell if she does in fact show up on AEW television as well, because that could be a whole other thing that we see her kind of week to week. In her promo after her debut, she did say like that New Japan was the first stop on her world domination tour. So possibly we see her there. But a bit of a rocky start, but I'm still a huge Sasha Banks fan. So show me the Mone.
Karen, do you see her taking the title from Kairi?
My only concern is I am glad she's getting paid what she's worth. If she's getting over 100K per appearance, great. But Bushiroad can't bankrupt New Japan and Stardom to have her do a long set of appearances. Like I don't see Mercedes showing up for the 5-star Grand Prix. I don't see her doing like if she were to even beat Kairi next month, then she kind of doesn't. What's the word I'm looking for? I like her having that Chris Jericho level, you show up once every quarter kind of appeal to have a dream match. And I don't know if she necessarily, like, fighting her is like, she doesn't need a title. Honestly, Kairi versus Mercedes doesn't need a title, but that's what we're going with anyway. My concern is, like, I don't know how many people in the chat or listening to this podcast have been to the Tokyo Dome. The delay on any kind of audio, whether it's fan reactions or whatever, there's a several second delay, but also sound goes into the ether there and just evaporates. So unless there's a very large reaction,
I don't know. I watched the same crowd for Kenny and Ospreay. They were pretty loud, but you could hear the pin drops when Sasha was standing in the ring. I think during that whole women's match, to be honest, it was quiet.
They didn't have enough time to really develop into anything. It just, the whole match felt rushed. But for the other problem with Sasha's promo is, one, it was very much a WWE promo, only in English, and the majority of the audience is Japanese individuals who may or may not be confident enough to understand, especially if there's a lot of puns or double entendres or whatever in the promo, and there was no translation available. That's where it gets complicated. You have Chris Charlton, and you do have other members of staff that are fluent and do translation occasionally at venues. I don't understand why this promo wasn't translated for the venue. Or do what they did with Kenny Omega, put together a 2-minute video package, and then while that's playing, you have somebody sneak her in, and then just when the lights come back on, she's standing next to Kairi. But that's just me. I also, as somebody who's studied kimono for the last 20 plus years, I had a bit of issue with the a fine line between appropriation and appreciation of her entrance gear, because it was very questionable whether or not she was appropriating kimono culture into her outfit or not.
I'm surprised she didn't come out dressed like Sailor Moon, but then right away after the segment, her pro wrestling tees went up, and all her merch is Sailor Moon, like oriented and stuff like that. But
the art's pretty great. She's got some sick design team.
Yeah, I didn't mind. I know what you're saying about her look, definitely, because it's like, oh, okay, but maybe she won't wear that again. Maybe on U.S. soil she'll rock just the, what was it, like the
tiara
of Liberty or something.
Yeah, it looked like a Statue of Liberty tiara, but maybe, who knows.
But I will say
not the giant Japanese flag. That was just that was weird for me.
I want to say her heart was in the right place.
I agree completely. It's just a teachable moment. Mercedes
moment.
stands, don't come after me. It's a teachable moment.
Yeah, but I will say her shirts look pretty cool. There's one I'm eyeing, the Sailor Moon one. I'm like, oh, that looks completely different from a lot of other wrestling merchandise out there.
I just wish it wasn't a black T-shirt. Put it on a different
fair enough.
color.
Yeah.
I hate the black T-shirts. Too many.
Like I love black T-shirts, but like PWT does let you switch the colors sometimes. I'm just sick of AEW's designs. I've gone off on them. Like, I'm not trying to sneak diss them or anything. Just like, all their shirts are absolute ass. So like, to see her come out with actual like cool looking graphics, I'm like, sorry, why don't AEW get different people than just the people who I don't like their stuff, but I thought that looked pretty good. So I'm excited to see where Sasha goes. Karen, if there were to be like certain matches that we do see from her in the next few months, what would have your interest if they said, okay, Mercedes versus?
I mean, she called out Azumi. I'd love to see that. She also called out Tokyo Joshi Pro's Miyu Yamashita. I would love to see it. I just don't know if she's ready for that. I love Miyu Yamashita, but I'm also afraid she would take Mercedes' head clean off her shoulders with those kicks of hers. But yeah, it's one of those things where there is the potential for a lot of dream matches for her, not just in Japan but around the world. I just don't want her to rush through all of them and then possibly go back to WWE.
I see that happening.
If she's getting these massive paydays, then hell yeah, good for her. But also do all the other things you want her to do. Like, do the fashion thing, do the Mandalorian thing, like, do everything. Because at this point, she's working smarter, not harder, and I respect that hustle.
Gotta respect the hustle. Shout out Mercedes Mone.
Well, we've kind of mentioned it a bit, but there was an actual main event on this show as well. That's third from top. Well, on our Wrestle Kingdom discussion.
Bless their hearts.
It was Jay White versus Okada, part 14 for the IWGP World Heavyweight title in the main event. It was fine. Thoughts?
After watching the craziness of Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, so I feel like we're just gonna treat it that way. Like, oh, like, sorry, this is still a good match. Just we were way too focused on something else.
The hardest part about this particular main event is that we've seen it. We've seen it a lot. It's been the story ever since Jay White turned on Chaos, went to Bullet Club, took half of the Chaos with him. And it's also the lol Okada wins because
Okada.
It couldn't, after he won the title last year, walking in looking like Antonio Inoki, winning the G1 the year before and this past year, and then the passing of Antonio Inoki, and this being the memorial Wrestle Kingdom for him. I know people love Jay White. I think he's a fascinating character. I just find him to be a boring wrestler at times.
Most of the time.
And sometimes I feel the same way about Okada, and I love Okada. I mean, Okada doing that, that cannonball off the top rope, that was kind of new. Haven't seen one of those in a very long time. Had it been Jay White, I would have been, all right, let's go, because that boy doesn't go beyond the first rope on anything. So it's the... After that not semi-main, double main event, the first one, I would feel bad if Okada had squashed him in 15 minutes, but I wouldn't have been mad at it. Just because they didn't do anything in this match that topped the match before them.
It would have been different if they went for like a sprint, like a 15-minute, 20-minute thing. It would have felt different from their other matches, but it felt very formulaic. And I mean, we were talking about how spoilers kind of ruin wrestling for us. And sure, this wasn't spoiled, but there was no way Okada was losing with this whole Inoki tribute thing in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. We all knew he was going to do like the sign-off speech at the end. Like it was so obvious what was happening, and it just, especially coming off the back of Kenny and Ospreay, like it was fine. Like, it wasn't a bad match, but I didn't get those. As I said, a lot of this show felt like old Wrestle Kingdom from like 4 or 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, and I just didn't get that buzz from this main that I've got from previous ones. And it is because we've seen it. It goes back to the rematches and having the same people in this picture. Like, I'd love to see, we're going to talk about kind of the rest of Wrestle Kingdom, but I'd love to see someone like Hiromu or an El Desperado move up to the World Heavyweight picture, because that would freshen things up entirely. But yeah, it was fine, but I wonder if Jay White is someone who's going to maybe move to a WWE or something at this point. I think we definitely need a bit of a shake-up, and hopefully this is the end of it. We've hit reset with Okada again, but we do have some of these. We've got these new factions. We've got like Zack Sabre Jr. stepping up in more of a leadership role. We've got the connection with AEW now, so we can hopefully have more crossovers there. Hopefully this is kind of the end of that chapter, and we can move forward a bit now.
We said that about Jay White like a few years ago, though. He's been teasing going to WWE since joining New Japan. I think you know what? I'm not going to be as nice. Jay White didn't do anything to hype up this match with Okada. You watched Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega and Don Callis at that press conference. They were bringing it. Will Ospreay, you said, promo of his whole career, instantly right in Kenny's face. What did Jay White say to promote this match with Okada? He just went, "Yeah, I'm the champ. You can fight him. I'm from New Zealand." It was nothing. It was no story going into it. It's almost like he knew, I'm just here to do the job for Okada. So my interest going into the match, and then watching the press conference, thinking they would, have some spin on it to make it fresh and exciting. They didn't do that. And then giving them even the third, fourth chance to be like, okay, when the match starts, it's going to be different from what we've seen. No, they didn't do that. So Jay White definitely ran his course in New Japan. I would like to see him in WWE. I think his style would fit a lot better there. However, Okada will probably be champ until New Japan's just going to flip-flop this title around anyways. Like, no one even knew Jay White was champion this year until the main event hit, and they're like, oh yeah, he's the champ. Right, true.
He barely defended it. That was the biggest problem. Is like, had he had like 6 or 7 quality defenses between the time he got the belt and Wrestle Kingdom, sure, no problem, great champion. He defended like a handful.
Yeah, it was a non-run really, and now it's Okada's had the gold. I see Ospreay. I think he would work better as a babyface going into the next year. Eventually, I guess we're getting Okada versus Ospreay yet again, but maybe the dynamic will be a bit differently. I'm not too sure, but Okada is champ again. We're in the John Cena Okada years of New Japan. I think I regret to inform everybody, but I'm still going to be interested. Look, they teased at the end of it also Shingo, New Japan always has to have someone else come out and want a challenge, and it was Shingo, which amazing, dude's amazing, but Shingo, you were in the pre-show, you weren't even on this show, so where's your gripe here in any of this sort of storyline? I was just like, again, shaking my head at like, come on, we're going back to this again.
Well, he is now the KOPW champion, and I hope this could be like a way to just get rid of that and have Okada be like, all right, well, we're going to unify this or whatever, because, that whole thing's pretty dumb.
But a pretty good Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, let's have some other thoughts. Karen, like the rest of Wrestle Kingdom, what were some of your highlights of the show?
It's not really a standout match or anything, but I really appreciated the Inoki Memorial match, which included Tiger Hattori coming out of retirement to officiate the 6-man. That was like the exhibition right before the main card. I do wish that they had better the timing of the undercard. That nearly 2-hour undercard was better, because they could have easily given other matches on the main card more time instead of having dead periods of like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here of no broadcast at all. The junior tag match, poor Leo Resch got his face busted open, and I always enjoyed the juniors. They're some of my favorites in all of New Japan. So that match plus the 4-way, I could have swore this was going to be the reign of Master Wato, but LOL, Hiromu wins. Because Taiji Ishimori, El Desperado, and Hiromu were doing the Lord's work in trying to put Master Wato over in this match on everything and selling everything, but that's okay.
It felt so weird, that match. I love that match, actually. Despy's been someone who's totally grown on me as one of my favorites the past few years, but Master Wato is just there while the three of them are like flying around, killing each other, and then cute little Master Wato going to go up top for a little
I thought Wato brought something to it. Yeah.
I mean, for having to fill the shoes of Kushida, who had been taken out of that match because he wasn't able to, because he had that illness that took a while to get healed up.
Right.
He did his best. But at the same time, it makes me wonder if moving into 2023, like with the dissolution of Suzuki-gun, I'm wondering if Despy's going heavyweight.
I think
absolutely,
especially after what happened at New Year's Dash, where they Suzuki made an appearance and has his eyes on someone, which I am very excited about. But yeah, tag matches were fine. I of course was happy that we got FTR versus Bishamon in a straight up, you love technical wrestling and tag team wrestling, here, enjoy. But the Keiji Muto match, I mean, after Keiji Muto's supreme flub after the Nakamura match on the first, it was very hard for me to watch this match. But I was happy to see Tanahashi and Shota Umino in the ring, and Umino winning.
Yeah, Umino is
someone to watch, for sure.
Yeah, he's got to be a
future
champ there, right? Like, he's got to be one of their pet projects that goes a long way. Anytime he's stolen the screen, he's fantastic.
I like he's using the Death Rider as well, because he's Moxley's
Death Rider,
boy, right?
The entrance, he's coming through the crowd.
Yeah.
Oh man, he should be. He looks like Tanahashi with the gear that he wore. And he does the same finger up pose. I was like, this is what New Japan wants. A second coming of Tanahashi right here.
Yes, because Tanahashi's knees are on the outs.
Exactly. So they're trying to figure out a way how to give Tanahashi's Shota's knees, but they can't do it. But yeah, he's someone that I've actually been invested in. Because Karen, the past few years, someone like a Sonata, when they first were like, okay, this guy could be something, we all kind of jumped on board, and then slowly I think a few people fizzled out. I'm kind of feeling the same hype about Shooter, where I'm like, okay, like, you look good every match. I think that Forbidden Door match that he was in with Jericho was like, okay, wait a second, you're hanging with like one of the best, so you should be in a bigger spot. So I think by next year, this guy could possibly be holding a title or having a big singles match, maybe even with Jericho one-on-one at a Wrestle Kingdom, just with Red Shoes as a ref or something. That would be pretty cool for him as well. But he was a highlight. And FTR wrestling on a Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome, that was also pretty cool to watch.
Also, I want to throw out Ren Narita versus Zack Sabre Jr., the two prized children of Katsuyori Shibata fighting for his love in a 15-minute match. For those who love technical wrestling, this is your jam. It's my jam. I was in love with this match. I'm a huge Ren Narita fan. I love that, before Shibata had made his comeback, I was like, Ren Narita, second coming in Katsuyori Shibata. I got mini Tanahashi with Shota. I got mini Katsuyori with Ren. I am all set. And then, Shibata decided to come back and start wrestling again, which is fine. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just that match. I'm excited for the things that they have planned for Zack, if this is where we're going.
Yo, yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. and the Mighty Don't Kneel. I mean, that's a pretty sweet. Yeah, I'm like into that. That trio instantly sounds like money. I mean, I know they've added someone else now to the group, but
they Shanghaied a young lion.
That's right. I feel like Zack Sabre Jr. of coming in with the Mighty Don't Kneel, doing all sorts of different.
Sorry, Zack Sabre Jr. or the real Slim Shady's Junior. Like, what's with the hair?
Yeah, you kind of look like him. A few listeners were tweeting us like, "Yo, is that Davie Portman with the hair?" But you don't frost your tips like that, Davie.
Only on Halloween. I go blonde every Halloween.
Yeah. I'm excited to see trios matches like. Sorry to go to AEW, but like the Elite versus the Mighty Don't Kneel. Me and Davie have been doing Up Next and NXT shows for so long, and like Nick Miller, Shane Thorne. Never forget, he jumped off that shark cage truss or whatever. Like, they were good, and they weren't really given the opportunity to really let them shine. So to have the rub with Zack Sabre Jr. and likewise, like, he's kind of just farting around there. So to give them the whole new fresh coat of paint with that is something that I am interested in. Again, this felt like a new chapter of New Japan, kind of, hopefully, and that little thing with him joining those two. It definitely has my interest. We're going to get some pretty good matches.
I think as well, there are too many titles, but I love the whole 15-minute thing for this TV title, and I think Zack is the perfect one for that, who can put on just these kind of showcase exhibition 15-minute technical sprints. I think he's perfect for that. So I think he could have a pretty fun run with this title, even if it is another title.
Yeah.
Real quick, with TMDK, they were in Noah before Zack joined the Noah Dojo. So their whole story together goes back over 10 years.
Oh, okay. So there is actual proper history there as well.
Yes.
Zack Sabre Jr. is fantastic. I'm excited to see where they go with that. It was something that was unexpected at the end of that match with him putting on the T-shirt, and we just looked at each other like, oh, that sounds good. Take my money.
The Noah stands know that's a deep cut for everyone.
Love it. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom was great.
Karen, you did mention the Muta versus Nakamura match.
Sure did.
Yeah. I think we got a lead, probably, unfortunately, with the comments from Muto after the match. Some pretty homophobic comments based around the finish of the match, where Nakamura kind of kisses Muta to suck the mist out of his mouth and spit it in his face before a Kinshasa. Put a real dampener on it, and this whole retirement tour, like, it's really, he should know better, right?
He knows kissing is the hot thing in 2022 of wrestling. That was like the whole, any indie show we went to, any GCW, AEW, like the kissing thing was totally over in 2022, and for him to just instantly shit on that was really backwards. It's like, dude, everyone was loving it. You're the reason. You opened your mouth.
What hurts the most about it was how excited Shinsuke was about finally wrestling his idol, and what a big deal it was to him, and it just soured everything that I felt about that match. Because I was writing the report for Post, I was so absorbed in writing the match, I didn't see the comments until the following morning. And I was mortified because, one, it was posted unedited. It was written in English. It was retweeted by the English account. And if you went to the YouTube video before they took it down, the generated closed captioning nailed most of it right on the head. And I was like,
wow.
I'm glad that Noah did the right thing by taking it all down. I don't know if they've edited it out of the actual stream, But it just soured. I mean, I was looking forward to the next couple of Muta matches, but now like that's why I was so checked out of the match at Wrestle Kingdom. I was like, I can't watch this in good faith and be like, oh my god, I'm so glad that this is happening for Muta, because he made me not care all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, yeah, like we've already got scheduled a best match ever, Great Muta, and this happens, and you're like, do we do that?
Yeah.
Like
we're
it's
doing
right at the
best
end of his
ever.
career as well, dude. You've got like 3 weeks left, and then just
shut up.
Just over a month. Keep your mouth shut.
30 years or whatever. Just three weeks left. Why
now? You say this now.
Come on.
Yeah. We decided we're still doing that podcast, but we told WH Park, who will be joining us, he curated a list for us that he better watch his language while recording with us.
Are you sure?
Yeah. WH Park live podcast.
Get the swear jar out.
We've got him on a leash. Yeah. But the positives, I mean, I loved this was like old Nakamura.
Yes.
You said he was excited to wrestle Great Muta again. He just seemed excited to wrestle again, because I haven't seen this Nakamura for quite a while. Starting with the entrance with getting Lee England Jr. again, the violinist who he had at the Brooklyn takeover. The presentation of it all was pretty awesome to see him in like this form again.
Yeah, not chill out surfer Nakamura who doesn't really care. It seemed like he was caring. He seemed like he was there to do that. And I don't know if that's how a lot of people watch his WWE run and go, it looks like he's just kind of coasting and just happy to be there kind of thing. But it felt a lot different. It felt like it wasn't the style that he's been wrestling for the past while. And you know what? I actually really loved the finish. I thought that was pretty creative with the mist catching it and then spinning it back like. Yeah. Remember that Wrestle Kingdom when AJ fought him and AJ did the Bullet Club pose and shot the fake gun, and then Nakamura pretends to catch the bullet, eat it, and spit it back at him? That's what this felt like, but for real. Like, he caught the mist and then got it back. Like, come on, that was pretty sweet. And then Muta had to ruin it by talking all that shit.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the match before we move on, Karen?
This like you guys said, this is old Shinsuke Nakamura. This is the Shinsuke I've missed for a very long time. This is the Shinsuke I've wanted to see in WWE for a long time. Like, I haven't seen this Shinsuke since NXT. And for those who watch, they always do that, top 10 or top 5 countdowns of people leaving NXT. When you get to the Shinsuke one, they cut to a girl crying in the audience. It's me. That's your Easter egg. I cried the day that man left NXT because I had a feeling that things were going to change when he went to Maine, and they did. So to have him back like this, it was so refreshing to see him like that again.
Apart from the Sammy match, I never really thought he completely brought it in NXT either. I think there was the kind of the novelty of the presentation. It felt fresh, the whole entrance, everyone singing along. He had those great takeover entrances. But, I mean, the Sammy match was like, it's still up there as a great match. But I can't really say, the Bobby Roode feud or the Joe feud really did it for me. I apart from that Sammy match, he's never really connected. He's had opportunities. He had a match against Seth at Survivor Series one year, which was fine. Like, I'd love to see him feel motivated again in WWE, but with Vince coming back, I can't see that happening.
His whole run in WWE, honestly, like after the Sammy match, he was coasting. I think we do so many NXT oriented stuff, and going back and rewatching, we're like, oh yeah, Nakamura Joe. Okay, I was at this show, and then rewatch it back. It's like, yeah, it was all right.
Good. It was good.
It was okay.
It just reminds me of like how tight of a leash they keep a lot of these talents on when they're transitioning from outside of WWE style to WWE style, because people said the same thing about Kenta or as Hideo Itami.
Yeah.
That when he showed up in the G1, that like right after he left, everyone was like, "Where the hell has this guy been for the last 7 years?" And it's like he's always been there. It's just that, was he allowed to do that or not? And sometimes I feel like they intentionally have certain people hold back so as not to upstage other talent that are supposed to be the ones that are the focal point of the match.
And especially these guys known for, like, striking hard. It's
how much do these people want to get
these struck stiff every night.
I mean, yeah, Nakamura's probably making more money surfing than he's actually getting hit in the face. So, what makes sense? But to go back to Kenta, I mean, Kenta coming out at Wrestle Kingdom doing the Hal from Malcolm in the Middle Power Walk.
I loved it.
One of my moments of the year, instantly. Yeah.
I mean, given what he did at last Wrestle Kingdom, he earned the ability to coast at this Wrestle
He's
Kingdom.
like, you're putting me in the fucking Rambo? All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna come out power walking. Yeah. The Santino walk.
If I can't do, G1 backstage promos, power walking comedy it is, and I'm fine with it.
Book it.
We've got one more thing on kind of the Japan front before we move on. Hiroshi Tanahashi hinting that after this set of tapings, that will be either the end of New Japan Strong or some kind of reboot, restructure. Karen, I believe you've... I can't say I've really watched much or any of New Japan Strong, but I believe you're someone who does follow it.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this, and what are maybe your ideas of what it's going to be moving forward?
As you know, I understand the purpose it served during the pandemic, especially with the travel restrictions. It gave a lot of wrestlers who were put out of work or couldn't travel to Japan regularly a place to work. It gave guys like Jay White, who was, he was landlocked here in the States because he was getting his green card, couldn't go to Japan. Guys like Tama Tonga, who didn't want to be away from their families for like 3, 4, 5 months out of the year. And, and also a lot of guys in the South California scene that were all of a sudden, they were either released by WWE or they were just, because they're indie guys, really didn't have anywhere else that they could have stable income. So I understand the purpose that it served. And honestly, I really enjoyed Strong. Strong had I loved the evolution of Filthy Tom Lawler. I loved everything they've done with Ren Narita in it. It's just, it served its purpose for the last few years, and especially when they resumed touring, it gave the house shows that they were doing purpose because they took those house shows and made it into content. It wasn't just one and done. Most of it, it didn't really have connection to what was going on with events in Japan, but occasionally you got a Minoru Suzuki, you got to see Jay White, you got to see a Tanahashi every now and then. So it's great. It's kind of bittersweet because some of it had some really great wrestling on it. But if it means that New Japan is going to move back to having shows here, like, for example, starting with Battle in the Valley, where they bring over the entire roster, okay, I'm fine with that. Because that was one of the more difficult selling points of New Japan Strong, was that, yes, you had a handful of New Japan talent, but they stopped bringing the entire roster over for tours. Yeah. So you were paying the same prices as pre-pandemic, but you were only getting maybe 5 or 6 talent coming over from Japan at a time. And because those often overlapped with tours in Japan, you couldn't get that was the one promise that they keep breaking, was not running concurrent shows, but they would always put the shows during a tour. So I hope it's moving towards something that's more like pre-pandemic New Japan, where they bring everybody, but also some kind of stable TV deal, whether it's with Roku or with Amazon Prime or whatever, New Japan, like something that has a better. I mean, I love Strong, but the production value varies so much from venue to venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I need something more consistent.
From that post from Tanahashi, it seemed he says something about overseas tournaments and like a different form of the show. Yeah. So like you said, I imagine that they come back with these touring shows and incorporate that style. I think that show was great for the time of the pandemic, and like you said, with having all these talents. But when I watched it, anytime I watched it, the highlights were Ren Narita. But I'm not paying full prices to go to a show to watch Ren Narita. Nobody's gonna know who that is, unless you're super hardcores. But then whenever I watched Strong, it didn't look like, again, pandemic, it didn't look like there was the feasting hot crowd waiting, because I remember watching the Eddie Kingston Ishii match, and it was really good, but it felt like still just kind of a local indie kind of promotion. I think ending New Japan Strong is probably the best bet.
It's one of those things where it's so hard, because they were charging this, that was the biggest selling point for me, was people were well, why aren't you going to this show? Why aren't you going to this show? I'm like, you're charging me the same price, but giving me a fraction of the talent that I'm used to seeing. Yeah,
you're paying for Okada, but you're seeing...
But I'm not getting the rest of Chaos.
Yeah, essentially. Not dissing, but I think it was a great spot for wrestlers to definitely go and own their craft and stuff like that. And I think maybe making that their U.S. show was kind of their intention. So now that things are like opening up and everything, and you can have talent cross borders back and forth, I think maybe they're coming up with a smarter, more advanced play to do the US shows. At least you would hope so, because I don't think it's necessarily a big loss. The only person I know who watched it religiously every week was John Cena from Shot in the Dark. So I mean, like, a lot of my other wrestling fans, you know, who are way bigger fans than me, were like, oh no, I don't watch that show. There's no story. So why would I watch?
It's also 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. A lot of people have plans at 8 o'clock on Saturday nights.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
doesn't involve
today's age, you can still, like, you know, a day or two later go, oh, should I watch? What should I watch? And like, I don't know about anyone else, but when I have some time off and I want to catch up on some wrestling, New Japan Strong was never on that list to go, oh, I better check out this match that happened on. Like, no offense to them. Again, bless them. I still want to see a lot of that talent.
Whatever format it comes back in, I wonder if more of a relationship with Tony Khan's Ring of Honor would help both out, because I think they are two shows that, I mean, the Ring of Honor one hasn't started yet, but they're two shows which in my head I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to watch that week to week. I might watch a pay-per-view, and maybe because you've got people, as you said, like Tom Lawler, he was in the G1 but wasn't factored really on this Wrestle Kingdom at all. Like, there are talent on New Japan Strong, a Fred Rosser, like, what happens to him? There's talent there that needs somewhere to go, and New Japan Main is pretty bloated. So I feel like having some sort of crossover with maybe not an AEW but an ROH could help both brands, perhaps.
And well, there's also the relationship with Impact, because that's where Yuya Uemura is doing all of his wrestling lately, and then, you know, Kushida's going. I think, like, there's a pay-per-view that they have coming up. Kushida's on that pay-per-view as well. So it's one of those things, like, there are other options. My only question is, what's happening with the LA Dojo? They don't have any new young lions. Everyone's graduated with the exception of Uemura, who feels like he's somewhat graduated because he's not wearing black trunks anymore. So are there going to be new young lions, or are they closing the LA Dojo? That's what I want to know, because I'm very invested in LA Dojo.
I need to make sure I get that La Dojo t-shirt before they do close.
La Dojo.
La Dojo.
Yeah, like, Kushida went this whole year without really wrestling a whole lot, and not a lot of people watching him wrestle since, like, leaving WWE. And if Kushida continues to wrestle in Impact, it'll be the same thing. Not a lot of people watching you wrestle this year. So I kind of hope he doesn't go there and ends up more so, like, he left New Japan because he was a junior, and that's it. He was kind of, I'm assuming, was upset that he was just that position. The 4-way junior match, you know, Kushida's always going to be in it. And now he's come back, it's like, oh, you're going to be put in the same position. Whereas you do wonder as a fan, like, could there be a bigger ceiling for him? Could he go to the heavyweight division?
They should let him fight open weight.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Same with Davie, same with Hiromu.
Yeah.
I mean, I just missed Jacket Time. Like, that was the highlight of his 2022, to be honest.
For Jacket Time.
Pour
one out for New Japan Strong.
Let's move stateside now. A bit of news breaking from Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's more CM Punk news that apparently he's maybe willing to do business and go back. This follows the Dax Harwood podcast where he's saying, like, why can't we be friends? Can't everyone just get along and do business? Punk has been putting, like, on his Instagram stories, clips of like graphs showing like his most watched YouTube, like AEW's most watched YouTube videos, and all of the ones with him, his sales for his wrestling figures and merch and that kind of stuff. And maybe you know, time heals wounds, and as well as healing his injury, maybe
his own wounds, like, they're his own wounds. He's cut up open. He's the one who opened these wounds.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is good. I mean, it's, people fight, people have falling outs, people do make up, and maybe there are some bridges that can be built here. It's best for everyone, in my opinion. Punk going back to AEW,
of course,
having those money matches with the Elite. Yeah, so it looks like we're moving in a positive direction, perhaps.
I mean, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart hugged on that one Monday Night Raw. Anything can happen in pro wrestling. So really, it's kind of happening a lot quicker than we assumed. But the talks of him coming back, I mean, part of me, the little Mark inside of me wants to think that they all had a nice dinner together, no alcohol, of course, and everyone talked it out, solved their problems, and just said, let's make money in 2023. And I hope that's what we do as wrestling fans. Of course, we want to see him back. His epic return to wrestling, catching that wrestling bug, really elevated AEW. I know he's been trolling with those memes about, you know, the views of their videos and stuff like that. They do well without CM Punk too. I know obviously bringing him in will not double the views and interest, but like bring in quite a lot. Like how many friends who are casual wrestling fans that we know in our life who are like, oh, CM Punk's back? Oh, I gotta check that out. What is that? So him coming back, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and you would want to see that match. I just need him to say sorry. Say sorry.
I know so many people who were not interested in AEW at all. They're WWE people and started watching because of Punk, and are now still watching because of an MJF, for instance.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a draw there. I definitely want to see him come back. Karen, some thoughts on Punk?
So for me, I was a diehard AEW fan when they first started because I really wanted to support them. Fell out of love with them for a while. Him coming back got me back into watching AEW regularly, aside from just the New Japan matches that were on. I went to Revolution last year where he had the dog collar match. I had never seen CM Punk wrestle live before that, and it was amazing. And then Brawl Out happened. If everyone can bury the hatchet and, I don't know, be a bunch of adults moving forward, we can enjoy wrestling. That's all it needs to be about. Check your egos at the door. Yeah, okay, money's great. I would love to make a lot of money in 2023, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like my name associated with something so negative all the time. Because that was why he left in the first place. He wanted to be happy about wrestling. Why did he stop being happy? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I definitely feel that first injury from him. He said about how he was just lying in bed and couldn't do anything. I feel he's a guy that does hold grudges, and I think that time just doing nothing allowed things to fester. You know, the fact he came back and right away wanted to give Hangman that receipt and call him out. Like I feel if he hadn't had that injury and he was just enjoying this title reign, maybe this wouldn't have happened, or maybe it would have grown. But I think he had maybe too much time with his thoughts. And then on the flip side, maybe this injury is a blessing, because instead of being, nah, I'm not coming to work, well, he can't come to work for 6 months because of this injury, and it allows things to breathe a little and then think, okay, what are we actually mad about here? What are we angry just because we have different philosophies about wrestling? Like you're angry about the Colt Cabana stuff? Like I think we can maybe move on. I mean, we keep saying these are all people that don't drink or do drugs, and they're getting into this fight, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm more calm than all these people.
We've seen way worse in wrestling. We've seen people, excuse me, but fucking each other's wives and stuff like that, and they've made money off of it. Like they've had
and these nerds with their dogs,
and these are just
workers'
like,
rights.
Oh well, you thought my friend did this, and I thought it's pretty small. Sure, punches were thrown and stuff, but I think we can move on.
Hey, as long as Larry's safe, that's all I care about.
Yeah. As long as the dog's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
as we said, we were trying to book what would Blood and Guts be, and the ultimate one would be, the Elite, Kenny, Hangman, Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman, and Colt Cabana versus CM Punk, FTR, Ace Steel, and Larry the Dog. That's the match we need
Book it.
in 2023, Blood and Guts.
What kind of dog is that, Larry the Dog? He's a weird looking.
I think he's a type of schnauzer, or like one of the Scottish. I just wanted to say schnauzer. A Scottish Terrier, maybe.
I love dogs, but God bless
Larry.
Larry
Ain't it?
Yeah, Larry. I'm a dog person.
But that's his charm. His charm is that he's Larry.
Right.
Yeah.
Not charm. Quite X-Pac's dog. X-Pac is still
X-Pac's the best wrestling dog
of wrestling dogs.
Tori Wilson's little Shih Tzu was up there too for me at one point.
We also had a debut this week on AEW Dynamite. It was the new set. This has been talked about. Tunnels done. No more. Screens everywhere. It's red and blue lasers. Thoughts on this? I personally kind of I think it production wise is an upgrade, but I kind of missed the tunnels. I think it looks too like a WWE set now, where before it did have its own personality.
What was the thought process? Yeah, look, Davey, I'm with you. I love the tunnels. They were very TNA, but it also like separated them from looking like WWE. If you maybe you never watched TNA and you wouldn't know like the tunnels was a thing there. But, like it was still their own, and to have the babyface tunnel and the heel tunnel is still pretty cool to do that. And also people would jump off the top of those things like almost every week, so it was big part of their set. But to go forward, I think the like fresh upgrade looks cool. It's just funny that TK was sitting down in this meeting going, okay, we're going to refresh our wrestling show. What can we do to like change and make our show Dynamite look like this great, fresh wrestling show? Okay, let's use the Raw and SmackDown colors.
It's pretty much the Survivor Series set.
It's the Survivor.
Red and blue lasers Raw versus with SmackDown. Screens everywhere. And there are things I liked the screens in the like announce table. I thought that looked cool. It makes me wonder, are you able to do announce table bumps if you've got these monitors in there? Not sure. And I liked the using the shots of the like city they're in. Like you saw these shots of Seattle, because I think the towns are a big like character in AEW. You know, you've got MJF in Long Island, Punk in Chicago, Britt in Pittsburgh. So actually
Rampage
showing that is Rampage in Toronto. So showing that's pretty good. But yeah, I'm kind of I was hoping for something maybe a little more unique.
It's not bad, but it wasn't like it was like, oh, okay, you look like WWE even more now. So I guess that was
I wonder how much of that is maybe like Turner, like TBS, being like, we want this to, maybe it's their directive. They want it to maybe look more like WWE. People flicking through and it looks like a familiar product. I don't know. Karen, what's your take on the new look here in AEW?
It's hard because I really enjoyed the tunnels, and it was also what I liked. They had more of it felt fresh. And this is like, had they picked a different color scheme, not red and blue, I probably would have been okay with it. Because they do have the AEW black, white, and gold, but now also looks like NXT black, white, and gold. So it looks too familiar. I just want something to make it stand out again. And for me, silly enough, it was those tunnels, or because I always think back to that design, or when they did the very first Fyter Fest, how it was like all tropical themed. It felt like. I grew up in South Florida, so it has like downtown classic retro Miami vibes to it. It just feels like more of the same right now. And that was the one, like, it feels like they keep taking steps in a direction to be more mainstream, but as a result, they're losing more and more of what made them stand out from WWE.
I mean, if that's what they need to do, then like all the power to them. I know that when promoting next week's Dynamite in California, the graphics that they were using like purple and yellow and stuff, obviously like Lakers colors. But it made me go like, why didn't you just use purple? 205's that live has been dead for years.
Purple's kind of been their color as well, like the purple dust and all that. Like I mean, our old, when we did BD Elite, we used purple because it seemed like associated with them, and now, as you said, 205's dead. You can.
I just want them like go. The pay-per-view sets have been like we were at Full Gear, and they had like pretty cool set with like gears and stuff like that. Like going forward, pay-per-view set. WWE needs to do this too. Like whatever happened to really good pay-per-view sets.
I mean, AEW only doing the 4, maybe 5 with Forbidden Door. Like WWE, they do so many pay-per-views. I can understand from a financial point of view not doing sets as much as I miss them. But AEW should totally take advantage of that. And sure, we have a few like beach balls and lifeguard chairs sometimes, but go a bit more above and beyond with the pay-per-views, I think, to have them not look like a Dynamite.
I will say this week, going back to Dynamite, if we want to jump into some stuff that happened on that show, because I really enjoyed Dynamite this week. It had some pretty good like matches. Every week, Dynamite is still my favorite wrestling show to watch, and even if I don't catch it live, which I usually do, it's still like I have to watch it, even if it's not my favorite episode. But this week's was pretty strong with the rematch of Darby Allin and Samoa Joe, where the last time we watched it was Demolition Derby with Demolition Darby, I guess I should say, because he was getting ragdolled beyond control. And then the rematch here with their first show, like in Seattle, home state warrior here of Darby, and then finally beating Joe in what I thought was a really great match and just a fantastic story. And
it's
just
been Joe's best matches since his like return to NXT.
Since being here.
In 2021, right? Like this was...
Yeah.
His chemistry with Darby's fantastic. Karen, you were saying about you're worried about what Kenny and Ospreay will do next time, and you're worried for their safety. That's how we watch Darby Allin every week. Single time. There was that kind of swanton to a standing Joe on the floor where it looks like his knee just explodes. They're throwing him headfirst against the turnbuckle, where I'm surprised I haven't seen someone do that thing where it happens, then he just spins and goes off to space. That was in picture as well. Uranagi on the steps, but not the flat part of the steps, but the actual edge, the corner. Like,
why would you do that? Why?
Some of these bigger guys taking the bumps where their back is like muscled and calloused, like, okay, but Darby is like, he's smaller than me. Like, how... Like,
he's 85 pounds soaking wet. Like, and he has to get on a plane in a couple weeks to go to Japan, so they need to be delicate with him. At least let him get that Muta match out of the way, and then he can just do whatever. But yeah, no.
I didn't
get to watch this week's Dynamite.
Oh, okay. I got choked up at the end. I was in tears at the end of this Dynamite.
Davie, we watched Dynamite together this week, and we were recovering from our Wrestle Kingdom early Wednesday morning. And when Sting came out and he hugged Darby, me and you were like, oh, I mean, we dressed up as Sting and Darby for Halloween, so we were like, oh, look at this hug. and then we paused for a moment and we looked at each other like, is Sting gonna turn on Darby? Which they didn't do, thankfully, because like it would just be like a great.
It's like the New Day;
shock.
they should never break up.
Yeah,
like,
just
you can
don't
drift
do
apart,
that,
but don't break up.
Revolution needs Darby versus Sting 1-on-1.
I think so. I think Sting's gonna have one singles match in AEW. It will be against Darby. It makes complete sense to do like a title v career. The TNT title, like TNT being so associated with Sting from all those WCW years, I think it's perfect storytelling. You don't need a breakup or anything. It's just like, whether it's Darby challenges Sting, be like, you need one last great match, and I think that's where Sting probably retires, and then Darby can start moving up to maybe the world title picture, because I totally see Darby versus MJF Part 2 for the world title down the line. But I thought it made so much sense putting it on Darby. I think the TNT title started off great with, Cody, Brody, and Darby as your champions. And then the last year got really muddy with the whole Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky flip-flopping. Are they baby faces? Are they heels? And then even Wardlow, like the Wardlow win kind of... Wardlow didn't feel the same after the whole MJF thing. I think this is a bit of a reset. You've got it on a reset for Darby and the title, and I totally think whether it's Revolution or even further in the year, a Darby Sting retirement match for the title is where it needs to go. But yeah, Karen, like I go and watch this match. I mean, you might be a little squeamish with it. It is very violent, but the end, father and son hugging. Sting's baby boy did it all by himself. It's pretty beautiful. I do
have a soft spot for the Stinger, so I may watch it.
Sting and his kid Darby and his dad Sting was pretty good. We had another dad-son combo on Dynamite. We had Jeff Jarrett and his son Jay Lethal almost win the tag titles. For me, I don't know about you guys, but like the second they brought in Jeff Jarrett, everyone groaned and laughed. I was one of those people. And then week by week, I'm like, really, we're doing this. They bring up TNA and how he's just here. Why? I don't know. He's just here. and then you hate it, and then you hate it, and then they do the match. He has a few matches, and then you're like, am I hating this, or are they doing their job, and that's why I'm hating this?
The guy hasn't had a bad match yet.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put this out there for anyone who's like, yo, screw Jeff Jarrett, why is he here, blah blah blah. It's working. I think the whole plan of him coming in here was to help get someone else over, and I mean it's working. So I almost thought they were gonna give Jeff Jarrett the tag title run just to piss people off even more, slap nuts. But like, he's had a fun run here.
He has, and I actually think it's helped the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed, obviously, the whole scissoring thing got super over. The match with Swerve and Our Glory was fantastic, and then it's once they won the title, you often see with like babyface underdogs, it's like, what's next? Now you're the champion. You often get kind of short runs. You often have, if it's WWE, you win the title, you have a match against Kane, and then you drop the title 2 months later. That tends to be how it is with babyfaces. I think they've been really smart using Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, who both to a lot of people have that kind of go away heat, but they've used it in a way where the Acclaimed still feel as hot as they were in the summer. And it's managed to extend this run rather than if they just had a match against, say, a Top Flight or a Best Friends, which would be good. But I think this is still getting those top, Acclaimed reactions. So I think this feud's really helped them. I think Jarrett looks great. I think his match with Sting and Darby was fun. This pair of matches with the Acclaimed on Dynamite and Rampage were really fun. Yeah. He came out in the Rumble a couple of years ago in his old kind of Double J gear and looked like an old timer dressing up like he used to. Whereas Jarrett he looks in peak fitness.
He looks like TNA Jeff Jarrett now, but he's in
looks
great
great.
shape.
He looks great.
Yeah,
he looks great.
He
doesn't look like an old guy kind of embarrassing himself out there at all. So
not at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are eating their words with this one, and because this was a pair of really fun matches.
I mean, if you're TK, you need to book Jeff Jarrett in a world title match like soon. Put the strap on Jeff Jarrett. Reign of Terror. Let's go. He should be the one to take it from MJF. That would be great. Well, Karen, you said you didn't watch Dynamite this week. I
did not.
Did you hear any of the conversation going forward about the
mystery tag partner?
Oh, I mean the mystery tag partner. It's probably Sasha, right? It looks like Hikaru's pissed that Paige just talked shit right beside her.
I mean, it gets complicated in the sense that I feel like New Japan wants to have Mercedes' first match on American soil after her release, since they are paying the price tag they are, so it gets complicated. So I feel like Soraya's planning on being in that match, but I also feel like Hikaru Shida's gonna take her out and team with Toni Storm instead, just to spite her. So
okay. Interesting.
Oh, you think Shida will take out Saraya?
Yes.
Okay.
For overlooking her, being like, bro, if you, like, she's like, because it was the whole thing was a big star from Japan, right? That was where she was going with that promo.
Yeah, I thought it was Shida taking out Toni Storm. Is how I.
No.
Okay,
no.
Saraya makes sense
That's
too.
how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because everyone's worried about her, even though she's been cleared. It's the condition of her neck or whatever. Just takes one kendo stick. Not that I've given this thought, but
I think we might still see Sasha on.
Yeah, I think maybe Mercedes not wrestling, but if you do have Shida taking out Saraya, I think there's a nice story there with Saraya and Mercedes, because it was Mercedes who, that kick that kind of ended Saraya Paige's career the first time. So I think it almost comes full circle with Mercedes coming out for the save to save Saraya, but not necessarily wrestling, and that way you're kind of giving both things in a way.
Yeah, you can give the ringside fan service, but the in-ring will probably have to wait till after February 18th.
All right.
We also had a bit of a development with the MJF Bryan Danielson feud, where Danielson just challenged MJF for the title for a fight, and MJF said, well, you've got to work your way up the rankings. So he's got to win a match every week on Dynamite leading up to AEW Revolution. And we're starting with a match against Konosuke Takeshita next week, which sounds
let's go.
phenomenal. And then if Brian gets through all that, he gets to pick the stip, and he's picked an hour-long Iron Man match for Revolution.
Oh, Lord.
Which I assume we'll be seeing. But
worker boots on, Max. He wants to prove to everyone he's not just the great talker. He's also, in-ring one of the best. I imagine the storyline going into this would kind of, the back and forth would continue with Bryan Danielson basically like, you're not the wrestler you say you are, so Max definitely wants to bring it. How pissed would you have been if you were at the Seattle Dynamite and you get teased that Danielson's going to have this huge match in the debut in Seattle, and it's Tony Nese, and they have a 3 to 4 minute match, and then next week it's Danielson versus Takeshita? I would be very upset if I was the one at the Seattle show, considering, he's the hometown boy. However, they were loud. They were so hot for Danielson that, they need to go back there before this year.
Yeah, Seattle were great.
Bring a pay-per-view there, right away. Let's get All Out of Chicago. Let's just not go to Chicago until CM Punk is back.
Seattle's a great spot as well, because you've probably got a lot of Canadian fans coming from Vancouver and going down there to watch. I'm excited to see that. Brian is one of my favorite wrestlers, so the fact we're going to get a featured Brian match on TV every week leading up to Revolution's pretty exciting. I can totally see MJF being the shit disturber, putting him against Claudio, putting him against Yuta, putting him against Moxley as kind of challenges to go forward. Okay. We've also seen MJF in these kind of gauntlets he's set up, bring in people from outside with Jericho. He had Juventud, he had Nick Gage.
Juventud.
Do you see any kind of outsiders coming in, maybe from Brian's past or whatever, to have a match with him?
Yeah, too bad Nigel McGuinness can't make that call. But a Claudio would be a good shout, man. That would be a fantastic Dynamite match, and having them to face each other because of MJF would be pretty cool. Mox, I feel like we've seen that a few times, so I wouldn't say. I think he's tangled up with Hangman, but. When it comes to outside, who, a Jerry Lynn? I'm trying to think of.
I could see a Kenta, maybe. If he's over for that the LA show, Battle in the Valley. If he's in the States, maybe they've got a bit of a connection there. Maybe a Kenta. But yeah, I'm just excited, and the idea of an Iron match, I think MJF keeps on proving himself in ring. I totally see him doing the thing where he deliberately gets DQ'd for a fall to then get the advantage and go 2 falls up. It works in 2K, it works in IRL as well.
AEW.
So, but Karen, some thoughts on this MJF title run and Brian being the challenger?
I mean, I'm looking forward to Bryan Danielson having to go up against the love of his life, Brianna Danielson, in order to clear the complete triumvirate of all the people that could probably make his journey to MJF as weird and bizarre as
He's
possible.
got to beat his own wife to challenge.
Jesus.
Yes.
No. The way you say it like that. No.
He needs to lovingly defeat her in the ring, not beat his wife.
Yeah. I feel MJF will bring up
defeat the wife.
Yeah, okay. He'll bring up and say Danielson, the Bellas
Kenta
suck.
would be a good shout to have him have that match, because he does live here in the States anyway. So,
but
Brian's only got so long left here.
It's quite interesting picking an Iron Man match for pay-per-view, because we've seen these shows are loaded. Normally with pre-show you're talking about 14 matches sometimes on these cards. You've got to think doing an hour-long main event, you're gonna be. A lot of talent aren't going to be on this show, and I can't see there being quite as many matches booked. But Tony Khan's nuts, so maybe it's just a 8-hour show. Who knows?
They already feel like that usually, so.
Yeah.
Although the last pay-per-view rolled by fast. There was another match that was announced from a different company. I'm sorry to talk about WWE on such a day where we just love to talk about Vince McMahon. But another rematch is announced for the Royal Rumble, and this time it's the last time ever, possibly, where Kevin Owens will take on Roman Reigns for the WWE Unified Universal World title, whatever it is they're calling it. No, they haven't split the belts. So Kevin Owens getting the rematch, and it's kind of like the MJF thing, because now Roman has assigned the honorary Uce to face his own friend leading up to this show, kind of next week on SmackDown. So very similar to what we've seen with MJF and making people fight other people. So I'm interested in the Bloodline feud. I think the last few times Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns tangled were pretty good. Unfortunately, the bad taste left in my mouth was from that Last Man Standing match, where they completely fucked that up, and there's just I can't remember anything else from that feud, just the slip up where they couldn't figure out the finish to that. So giving them one more big match at the Rumble, I think they would deliver.
I think this might be their third match at the Rumble as well.
They've fought a few times.
They've had a few matches at the Rumble, I believe.
Yeah. Roman Reigns doesn't usually deliver in matches for me. I'm not a huge Roman. It's the character and the story that usually is the draw and what works. But when it comes to his wrestling, I am just sitting on my hands, just Superman punch. Okay, great, spear, and it's over. So I am looking to 2023 with more optimism for Roman Reigns and the actual in-ring stuff, because they do a great job at promoting the storyline, but the matches don't do it.
I think Owens is definitely one of the guys he has better chemistry with. I do like his wrestling. I don't like kind of the Brock matches. I don't like when they just go to the well. But I think with a compelling story, I think the eventual Sammy match is just going to be electric. And this is kind of a step forward to that. On SmackDown, you had Roman just screaming at Sammy, breaking my heart here, and then apologizing to him later, which was odd. We're definitely moving towards that breakup now. I think the only problem is no one's buying Kevin Owens is winning this match. I'm sure it's going to be a good match, and I think the interest is going to be more if we see this split happen at the Rumble. I'm still waiting for that moment where, maybe Reigns wins and then is just beating you. I feel you need blood for this feud, and I know WWE don't do it, but if they are going to pull it out, I think having the Bloodline, Roman beating Kevin to like a pulp where Sammy has to turn to save his friend might be the way to do it. I think the match would be good, but yeah, we know who's winning this. There's no way Roman is dropping the titles to Kevin Owens this close to WrestleMania.
Kayfabe-wise, like if you're Sami Zayn, right? No matter what the Bloodline do to Kevin Owens in the next months or at that event or anything, just remember, Sami, Kevin's first day in NXT, he turned on you. Mm-hmm. So why would you ever care if this guy, just saying, kayfabe-wise, I wouldn't. Davie, if your debut and you beat me up 5 years later, 6 years later, 7 years later, I'd probably still remember that and be like, you know what? I'm not going to say
the way I see this relationship, though, it's like, siblings who have fallen out and and then say my brother and I had a massive falling out, and then Braden, you go like, oh yeah, your brother's such a dick. I'd be like, whoa. He's my brother. You can't talk about him that way. I can talk about him that way, but you can't. And I think that's kind of the Sammy-Kevin relationship. It's like, yeah, we can apron bomb each other right after we've won the title. We can screw each other, but no, he's still my brother. Like, you can't do that.
I'd never beat up you or your brother, for the record. I love you and your brother too much. I don't think I've even met your brother, but I wouldn't do it because he's your brother.
All right, well, it's on record now, so you can't. Karen, I know
I make no such promises.
You're not quite as interested in WWE, but do you have any thoughts on Sammy, the Bloodline, Kevin Owens, the Royal Rumble? Any predictions for the Rumble?
Oh, the Rumble always gets me to watch every year. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'll probably make a charcuterie board and pour some wine and just put it on. Maybe I'll play Nintendo Switch at the same time. We'll find out. But it's one of those things where it's like I try not to spoil the Rumble for myself by hoping that this person shows up, or hoping that this person shows up, or hoping I don't like to do Rumble predictions either, just because I can't ever. The only year I picked correctly was the year that Asuka and Shinsuke won, and that Ronda showed up. I actually made some good money that night. But like other than that, I've never gotten any Rumble picks correct. So I'm more of the sit down, shut up, and drink my beverage and just enjoy the show. But for me, I still haven't recovered fully from the Festival of Friendship. So it's like the whole Sammy and Kevin thing. It can go either way. Either Sammy is going to stand there and watch it happen, or he's going to step in and do something about it, or Roman's going to try to get him to get involved in the match, and he's going to refuse to do it, and then he's going to get jumped back out of the bloodline. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I see a big eventual beatdown on Sammy, just getting the ultimate heel level heat, which eventually sets up, Kevin Owens and Sammy teaming to face the Usos at Mania. I think is kind of the end game of this kind of story as it goes right now. Because like, as much as we would all love to see Sammy versus Roman at WrestleMania, let's be realistic. It's probably not going to be that match. So it'll probably be Cody or someone else facing Roman in the bigger kind of stage. But so far, this storyline is pretty good. And we will get that Festival of Friendship turn. You know it. I mean, just this week with Roman yelling at him, you got the tease of it.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, it'll be good though.
Get my crying towel ready.
Again, like Roman Reigns, the acting, he's fantastic. He will be in Hollywood. I think because he's just so believable and so almost scary, right? He can be laughing 1 second, and then the way he talks, he's got very good presence. And
Sammy just looking like a wounded puppy as well. Like Sammy, you're like, oh again, no, so Sammy.
Again, like wrestling, I'm usually invested in pro wrestling for the actual wrestling, bell to bell, definitely. But when you do the storytelling properly, and the storytelling and the acting and the sports entertainment is not done in a crappy way, it really can get me interested and get me hooked. Most wrestling fans don't even like the wrestling. We just like everything else in between, the trash talking, the backstage stuff. So like, they're doing a pretty good job of that. Because I wasn't a fan of the War Games pay-per-view, really. The only moment that sticks out for me was that like moment in the match with Roman and Sammy. When I'm talking to wrestling fans and friends about that pay-per-view, they're like, that was such a great match. I'm like, was it though? Or did you just like that moment? And then they go, yeah, that moment made that match good. I'm like, okay, so the acting is still like really there. But I can't wait to see where we go with Sammy and Roman.
Karen, what's your beverage of choice when watching the Rumble?
I've been on a bubbly kick lately, so it's been a lot of some Moscato or a Prosecco.
You're on our level. We love the bubbly.
I like to feel fancy, but it has been a little warm lately, so bubbles are always good. But a nice chilled Sauv Blanc is nice. But I try not to do cocktails during watch-alongs anymore, just because I end up falling asleep a lot faster.
Oh, I've done that.
I've made gin and tonics in the past, and by like the third match, I'm just like down for the count. So I try to like pick beverages that are light enough that keep me going, that aren't White Claws, because I think White Claws are garbage.
We did a watch along. Oh, that's sacrilegious here at Poisonrana.
I am so sorry.
We did a watch along of SummerSlam 2021, and everyone on the watch along fell asleep, and we've never done a watch along since.
Yep.
So got to watch your beverage.
It's a
I want more wrestling drinks. Like I want to try the Undertaker wine, the bouquet. I want to try. I haven't tried Austin's beer. I'm not even like I don't mind beer once in a while, but I'm not a huge beer guy. But we don't get Austin's beer here in Canada, so like things like that.
That's the hard part, is that they're very small runs, and they're also by very usually private breweries or wineries. Yeah. So they're expensive to buy. They're expensive to ship. There's never any coupons. I just find. I would want to do more reviews of those kinds, but they're too hard to get your hands on.
I know we've talked about it before, but literally just before recording today, I was in an exotic like snack shop that has different snacks from the U.S. and Asia, but here in Canada.
Is it an American section?
And in their fridge, I got my eyes lit up. I saw Asahi brand Strong Zero, but when I got closer, it was alcohol-free Strong Zero. And I'm like, ooh, why can't we get, which makes sense. We've talked about that, Davie, where it's called Strong Zero, so it would mean 0%. But we don't get those here, and I really wanted Strong Zeros for our Wrestle Kingdom viewing this week, but instead I got sake. But it still did the trick, but yeah, I want those imports.
Have you ever tried plum wine?
I have. Okay.
Yes.
It's kind of similar to sake, right? Like,
yeah, it's a little bit lighter, so you can drink it and get a nice buzz, but not get stupid drunk. really quick. You pace yourself with it though. But yeah,
Sounds
no.
pretty good.
Strong zeros. I
Wish
only
they
like
had
the
them there.
lemon
I need a
ones.
hookup.
Yeah, they're hard to come by here in the States, but like in Japan, there's so many other like of that genre of beverage
Yeah.
that have better flavor variety than Strong Zero brand.
We need the Poisonrana cocktails in a can, Davey. We need to market the wrestling. We realize whenever we do like bar events and stuff, when Davey comes up with a cocktail that he like names after wrestling, like we did the Poisonrana and the red rum and stuff, and whenever we do that, people get instantly like attached and want to try them and all that stuff. So
I mean, I'm always curious to try some beverages out. So
one day we shall share a
y'all are welcome to
Poisonrana.
experiment with me. Just no mango, because that'll kill me.
Oh, no, okay.
No mangoes?
No mango.
No mangoes, no shellfish.
All right. We'll make sure. No Caesars for Karen.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. Well, that's all our topics for today. Is there anything else anyone wants to kind of mention or talk about before we sign out? We've gone pretty long today.
Yeah, we did. I just want to give another shout out to Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. I really loved that match. The fact that I watched it back the next day just showed that like it delivered and over delivered, and it made me get hyped about New Japan again and to kind of see what they do there. So I'm super optimistic after watching Wrestle Kingdom this week. What about you, Karen? Anything else?
For those who are newer to New Japan, I'd recommend chasing up New Year's Dash which is basically their equivalent of a Raw after Mania or or SmackDown after Mania, where a lot of things get set into place for the coming year. So Wrestle Kingdom kind of bookends the previous year. New Year's Dash, new year, new dash, new start. So I would check it out because a lot of wheels get set into motion on this one in particular.
I mean, it was pretty crazy seeing the visual of Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada teaming together.
Correct.
This is Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant playing together on the same team. I lost my mind when I saw that. And then I lost my mind even more this morning when I woke up and went on Twitter because I saw, or Instagram, as I saw Kenny Omega posting a photo, a selfie with his golden lover friend, Kota Ibushi. Also in the photo, Ibushi mocking Kenny's eye by closing one of his own eyes. But this picture belongs in the Louvre, in a museum. I cannot wait to. Don't tease me with the golden lovers because I will absolutely melt like butter the second you announce that they're going to be in action or some way, shape, or form. But Karen, I'll pose you this question that seemed pretty popular last week on our post-wrestling best and worst of show. Do you think, likely or unlikely, will Kota Ibushi wrestle in AEW?
If he does, I've been asked this question before since everything that with Kota has transpired. If he does, it will not be on a show like Forbidden Door.
Okay. What?
Granted, with everything that happened prior, in the last year with Kota, I don't think it would be, especially if he leaves the company, I don't think it would be anything that had to do with a New Japan branded show.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, you could talk about if they were to go for the tag titles, like, because, at some point, who has the titles right now? The Bucks?
The Acclaimed.
They have the trios thing, yeah.
I mean, there could be, if Kota Ibushi comes into the picture, you could do Golden Lovers going for the tag titles. You could do Ibushi versus Kenny Omega at any pay-per-view. That could main event a show on its own. No title required. So it all depends on what Kota Ibushi, what kind of wrestling he wants to do, what kind of situation he wants to work in, and what if situation would be beneficial and healthy for everyone involved. That's my biggest thing.
My heart just skipped a beat when I saw the selfie of them together because I love them. They're my two favorites. I like growing up being a wrestling fan. WWE has been the main thing. I think of when I was a kid, teenager, buying WWE merchandise and ordering pay-per-views and watching and just being completely sucked into a lot of the characters, good or bad. But then I found as I got older, whatever the reason is, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega, anything they do, I have all interest, and everything else takes like the side car, because I don't know if they team up, if they tag, if they're even in a segment. I'm there for it. So I'm super excited. Maybe we will see the Golden Lovers reunite in a wrestling ring in 2023. But Karen, thank you so much for joining us here and talking about all the different topics. We always have a fun time chatting with you. I would love for you to have the floor here and let people know where they can find you and some of the great articles you've been putting out and everything. But please let the people know.
If you would like to find me, I am part of the Post family. So if you head over to postwrestling.com and search up Karen Peterson, a whole bunch of Stardom articles and New Japan articles will show up. I believe at the moment, in the last year and a half, my tally has finally hit just around 70 posts, which is very exciting for me. I also do a monthly Joshi column called Dream Slam Monthly. It was previously weekly in 2022, but we're going to move to a monthly format starting in January at the end of the month. I also am on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Hey Karen Sensei. And surprisingly, here on YouTube at Karen Peterson, my government name, because someone didn't manage to take that one. But yeah, I also do some work for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and I have some plans for 2023. So just come hang.
Amazing.
Excellent. Well, we love hanging out with you, Karen. It's always a fun time. And we'll be putting up that best match ever Io Shirai for free on this feed. And me, you, and Davie had a whole lot of fun marking out over some Io Shirai matches. So that'll be something forward. For anyone who's not listened to that show yet, would definitely recommend checking that out. Hit that subscribe button here on Poisonrana and Poisonrana.ca for all the updates of all the stuff me and Davie do. We do so many podcasts. We have Best Match Ever 2022 Part 1 and Part 2. We have Best Match Ever with WH Park, where we will chat about the great Muta. We have a review of Battle Royale coming out this month as well. We are all over the place with Japanuary on our Patreon, and it's
we're going to be
get all these shows.
Talking about a 1990 crossover show between WWF All Japan and New Japan Wrestling Summit. We'll be reviewing that later this month, and our regular scheduling, as in wasNXT, where we're going through. We're right at the end of 2013 NXT. We're almost at the network era of NXT, so that's very exciting.
We're talking about all the stars that are popular now. It's pretty crazy. So go check out all the stuff we do, guys. We podcast a lot, we create content, and we would love your feedback and for you to check it out. So go do that. Thank you so much for listening, and anyone who joined in on the YouTube channel, thank you for joining in on that. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. All that stuff goes millions of miles for us. And if you're an Apple podcast user, write us a nice little review. Be nice. You don't have to, but you can.
Well, I'm going to go and try and unblock a toilet now. So.
Oh my God.
Oh no! Godspeed, my son.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Davie. Hope that toilet's okay. Thank you, Karen. That's it. That's all. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And smoke them if you got them.
Ahoy!
Poisonrana.